Magicians have been entertaining people for thousands of years. We all know that executing a great magic trick takes a lot of skill and expertise. But what happens when the trick goes wrong? It's one thing if it's a random audience, but it's a completely different story when they make that mistake on live television. Let's check out some of the most hilarious and gruesome magic mistakes that magicians made in front of everyone with no editing to save them. Dave Allen's duck cannon. So, a magician, a duck, and a cannon walk into a bar, and behold Dave Allen's infamous duck cannon performance on Britain's Got Talent. Dave Allen, like most magicians, took to the Britain's Got Talent stage hoping to blow people away with his trick, the duck cannon. And he sure got a big laugh from the audience for his efforts. Except that's not quite what he was hoping for. Allen claimed he was going to put Domino the duck into a cannon on one side of the stage, light the fuse, and fire Domino into the future. Domino the duck was meant to transport from the cannon to a cage on the other side of the stage. Allen placed Domino into the cannon and, in a dramatic fashion, lit the fuse. The spectacular explosion blew the whole cannon apart. Then, Allen turned his back on the cannon to move towards the cage for the big reveal. That's when a whole new magician sabotaged Allen's routine. Enter Domino the Great. While Allen was looking the other way, Domino made his great escape from the compartment in the cannon where he was meant to be hidden, standing triumphantly on the stage in full view of the audience. Allen, completely unaware that Domino had stolen the show, pulled the cloth off the cage with great showmanship, expecting the audience to be dazzled by Domino's magical appearance inside the cage. As you can imagine, instead of a stunned applause, the theater erupted with laughter. Domino the duck stood triumphantly in the center while the other Domino was now in the cage. The teleportation act had become a cloning act. However, we have to give Dave Allen credit, because after he noticed the mishap, he recovered brilliantly. In a final flourish of comedic genius, Domino the duck quacked at Allen like he'd done it all on purpose, and the two turned a failed act into a hilarious comedy routine. Tran Tan Phat and the Acid Incident. The audience of Vietnam's Got Talent got far more than they bargained for when Tran Tan Phat took the stage. He was performing a classic mentalism routine, where a spectator mixes a bunch of items around on a table and then secretly selects one. The magician then perfectly names the object that the spectator selected. A great magic trick. Normally, this magic trick is done using random mundane items. But this is Vietnam's Got Talent, and Tran Tan Phat upped the danger. He laid out 5 identical glasses on the table. 4 of them contained ordinary water, but one of them contained acid. Yes, actual acid. You know, the stuff that literally melts things. Yeah, you don't have to be a magician to see where this is going. One of the judges was called on stage to mix up the glasses, so Tran didn't know which was which. But something had obviously gone horribly wrong this time, because Phat genuinely didn't seem to have a clue as to which glass was which. He grabbed one of the glasses and drank it. Water. He grabbed a second glass. Water. He grabbed the third glass and he immediately spit it out. Then he just sort of sat there with his eyes down. Oops. You can hear the audience giggle like they're hoping it's all part of the act. Except it really wasn't. He literally just drank acid in front of everyone. Major props to this magician though, because even though he literally just drank acid, he continued the routine. The show must go on, we guess. Don't worry, he was taken to a hospital straight away and didn't suffer any serious injuries as a result of the incident. Just a few minor burns that he fully recovered from, and a massive boost to his street cred. Paul Norris's not-so-sleight of hand. If you've ever performed anything live, you've probably suffered some type of pre-show nerves or jitters. This happens to pretty much all performers, regardless of their age or experience. Sometimes these pre-show nerves help you focus, and other times they do this. Paul Norris was making his TV debut on Sky Star Search and was hoping to dazzle with some amazing sleight of hand. But for whatever reason, things just went wrong from the very start. After struggling to make a rope stand up on its own, Paul attempted to begin his next trick. We say attempted to start because he couldn't even get the prop open. After an awkward amount of time, he eventually resorted to biting it open. Clearly something was off, unless this nervous persona was all part of his act. But unfortunately for Norris, this was all completely unplanned. Finally, it was time for his last illusion. They say the third time's the charm. Could Paul win his audience back with this final show-stopping number? Unfortunately, no. For his last illusion, Norris claimed that he could make 10 British pounds disappear. He took the 10-pound bill and put it into an elaborate black box meant to facilitate the magic, and instead of the note vanishing, it simply slid right out the other end and flopped onto the floor at his feet. Brutal. Norris simply said, "Oh well, never mind," and waved goodbye to the judges before walking off stage. Honestly, this was more difficult to watch than the drinking acid thing. I mean, you gotta feel bad for him. Don't give up, Paul. We've all had bad days. David Williamson's card trick for Murray. They say never work with kids or animals, but magician David Williamson was clearly braver than most. Or maybe he had just never heard that saying before. It's well documented by many magicians that the hardest audience to perform magic for is an audience of uninterested or bratty kids. Performers can make the mistake of thinking kids are easier to fool, but really, if you pick the wrong person, they see everything. And to make matters worse, they won't politely smile and play along to save the performer from embarrassment. If a kid sees something fishy, they're bound to point it out loud and proud. And that's exactly what happened to Williamson during his appearance on the Magic Comedy Strip. In this particular performance, David picked a little boy named Murray out of the audience to be his assistant. He sat Murray down at the table and attempted to do a card trick for him. Close-up magic at its finest. David counted out 3 cards and lays them out on the table in front of Murray. However, one of the 3 cards has a 4th card stealthily stuck to it. Clearly, the 4th card wasn't hidden enough, because David then told Murray that there were only 3 cards on the table. Murray didn't hesitate and immediately corrected Williamson in front of everyone, telling the whole audience that there are clearly 4 cards on the table because he can see the 4th card stuck to the last one. Oops, that's gotta sting. The audience rightly loved this because Murray is adorable and clearly smart as a button. But Williamson as the magician wasn't so pleased. Look, we get it. Performing magic is tough, especially when your trick is ruined. Williamson could have pivoted and turned the mishap into a cute or funny moment. Instead, he called it quits right away and sent the little boy back to his seat. Let this be a lesson to all new magicians out there. If you're gonna do close-up magic for a kid, you better make sure the illusion is absolutely watertight, because they will always call you out. David Blaine's live stream fail. If we were to ask you to make a list of the most famous modern magicians, chances are David Blaine would be right at the top. He's become basically synonymous with the word magic over the past 20 years. And you don't get to his level unless you are the best of the best. But, as good as he is, nobody's perfect. Unfortunately for David Blaine, his magic trick went south during a live stream, while a huge audience watched on Facebook. And not to mention the whole crowd that was standing right around him at the time. Blaine was performing a complicated mentalism routine where he was meant to guess what card an audience member was thinking of, based on a roll of a dice from a different person in the audience. Pretty impressive stuff, worthy of a David Blaine performance. Or at least it would have been, if it had worked. He started by giving a deck of cards to someone in the crowd, and asked that person to shuffle them thoroughly. He then gave a dice to the woman who was next to him, who verified that it was indeed a real dice, and not a loaded one. He asked her to roll it and memorize the outcome, but to cover it up so no one else can see what the result was. Blaine then flipped through the cards, asking another woman to think of one of the cards she sees but not to tell anyone. Still with us? So, we have a shuffled deck of cards, a secret playing card in someone's mind, and a covered dice roll. Finally, 6 other audience members each take one card out of the deck and lay them on the table. David assigned each of the cards a number, 1 through 6, declaring that the correct card is the one that matches the number that was rolled on the dice, still hidden in the woman's hands. To support the big reveal, he then asked the woman to reveal the card she was thinking of. She says, the 6 of hearts, and then you can visibly see Blaine pause. He asks if she's sure, even saying she can change her mind. But the woman is not budging. It's obvious something is wrong. He asks for the number on the dice, which is the number 4. He turns over all the cards one by one. None of them are the 6 of hearts. But it's really the 4th card that matters, remember? He then turns over that card to reveal the Ace of Hearts. So, not the 6 of Hearts, like the card she chose. Blaine jokingly says, well, close, and does a clever bit of sleight of hand to try to pull the card back. Then he simply admits that he'll do a better magic trick and redeem himself after that one. It does make you wonder if it feels even worse to mess up a trick when you're as famous as he is. But, like we said, nobody's perfect. Sometimes magic tricks don't work out the way that they should, but that doesn't diminish the incredible talent and courage it takes to perform them. Hats off to all the magicians who had something go wrong, but didn't give up. Have you ever witnessed a magic trick fail? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more magical content from us here at Masters of Magic.